They forgot my 21st birthday, but what they didn't know was that I had spent the day planning an unforgettable surprise for them. The silence in our house has a sound. It's the sound of a ticking clock that no one else seems to hear, counting down the seconds to my own irrelevance. Today is my 21st birthday, and the silence is deafening. I've been lying in bed for an hour, staring at the ceiling, my phone face down on my nightstand. I refuse to give myself the false hope of checking it. Hope is a luxury I gave up on years ago, somewhere between my 10th birthday, when I baked my own lopsided cake with a single, sad candle, and my 16th, when my parents took my brother to a sold-out concert for his favorite band, because the tickets just happened to go on sale that same day. They forgot. They always forget. My brother's name is Kevin. He's 2 years younger than me, the golden child, the sun around which our family orbits. He's the star quarterback, the honor roll student, the charismatic son my parents always wanted. I'm just Sarah, the quiet one, the one who gets good enough grades, has a small circle of friends, and has mastered the art of being invisible in her own home. Kevin's birthday is a month-long celebration. Mine is just another Tuesday. This year, the Tuesday is a particularly bitter pill to swallow. 21. It's supposed to be a milestone, a rite of passage. For me, it's just the final confirmation of a truth I've known for a long time. I don't matter to them. I finally swing my legs out of bed, the floorboards creaking in protest. The house is quiet, but I can hear the low murmur of the TV downstairs. At least they're home. My 18th birthday, they'd gone on a spontaneous weekend trip to a wine festival. They sent a postcard that arrived a week later. It was addressed to Kevin. I pull on a pair of leggings and an old hoodie, not bothering with my hair. What's the point? I pad down the stairs, my heart doing a stupid little flutter of hope against my ribs. Maybe this year is different. Maybe there's a small pile of presents on the dining table, a hastily scrawled card. Maybe they'll jump out and yell, "Surprise!" And this has all been an elaborate, multi-year prank. The thought is so ridiculous it almost makes me laugh. I reach the bottom of the stairs and peer into the living room. My mom is on the couch, laptop open, scrolling through a website. My dad is in his armchair, reading the paper. The TV is on, but muted. The scene is aggressively, painfully normal. No presents, no balloons, no indication that today is anything other than the 22nd of October. My mom looks up as I walk into the kitchen. "Oh, you're up," she says, her tone neutral. "There's coffee left in the pot if you want some." "Thanks," I mumble, my voice thick. I pour myself a mug, my hands trembling slightly. I lean against the counter, taking a sip of the lukewarm coffee, watching them. They've gone back to what they were doing, completely oblivious. My existence is background noise. "So," my dad says, folding the newspaper with a loud crinkle. He's talking to my mom, but his voice fills the space. "Did you look at the insurance quotes for the Mustang?" My blood runs cold. The Mustang. Kevin's 19th birthday is next month, and for the past 6 weeks, the only topic of conversation has been what kind of car they're going to buy him. Not if, but what kind. A sporty, cherry-red Ford Mustang has been the front-runner. "I did," my mom says, turning her laptop screen towards him. "The premium for a 19-year-old on a V8 is astronomical, honey. Maybe we should look at the EcoBoost model. It still has the look, but it's more sensible." "Sensible?" my dad scoffs. "Kevin's not a sensible kid. He's a star. He needs a car with some guts. We'll make it work. It's his last birthday before he goes off to college on that big scholarship. We have to make it special." I can't breathe. They are sitting here, on my 21st birthday, meticulously planning how to spend upwards of $30,000 on a car for my brother, whose own birthday is still over a month away. The irony is so thick it feels like I'm choking on it. My mug clatters as I set it down on the counter with a little too much force. They both look over at me, startled. It's the most attention they've given me all morning. "Everything okay, Sarah?" my dad asks, a hint of annoyance in his voice as if I've interrupted something sacred. This is it. This is the moment. The breaking point I've been hurtling towards my entire life. Every forgotten birthday, every overlooked achievement, every time I was told to be quiet because Kevin's game is on, it all coalesces into a single, white-hot point of rage in my chest. I have a choice. I can do what I always do. Swallow the pain, murmur, "I'm fine," and retreat to my room to cry in silence. Or I can detonate the bomb I've been quietly building for the last 3 years. I take a deep breath. I look my father straight in the eye, and a slow, cold smile spreads across my face. "Everything is perfect," I say, my voice eerily calm. Actually, I have a birthday surprise for you guys, too. My mom frowns. Birthday? Whose birthday? The question hangs in the air, a monument to their neglect. I just let it sit there for a second, savoring the blank confusion on their faces. I don't answer her. Instead, I pull out my phone. My thumb hovers over a contact I've had saved for a very long time. I press send on a pre-written text. The message is simple. 3 words. It is time. A moment later, my phone buzzes. It's a text back from my Aunt Carol, my mom's estranged sister. The one they call a troublemaker. The one they haven't spoken to in a decade. The one who has sent me a birthday card with a crisp $100 bill inside every single year, without fail. Her message pops up on my screen. Is today the day? We're ready for you. I look up from my phone, my smile widening as I see the flicker of unease in my parents' eyes. They don't know what's happening, but they know the quiet, predictable rhythm of our family is about to break. They're right. I type back a single word. Yes. Then I open another chat window, this one to a group chat simply titled The Project. I send another message, my fingers flying across the screen with a certainty that feels like liberation. Initiate Phase 2. My dad's face, usually set in a look of mild, self-satisfied contentment, crumpled into a mask of confusion. What are you talking about? What surprise? What project? Sarah, stop talking in riddles. It's not a riddle, I said, placing my empty coffee mug in the sink with a delicate clink. It's a consequence. My mom let out an exasperated sigh, the kind she usually reserved for when I left a dish out, or didn't fold the laundry to her exact specifications. Sarah, this isn't funny. If this is about your birthday, I'm sorry. Things have just been so hectic with Kevin's college applications and the car. The non-apology, the immediate pivot back to Kevin, was so predictable it was almost comforting. It affirmed everything. It made what was about to happen feel not just necessary, but righteous. Just then, a sharp ping echoed from my dad's armchair. He glanced down at his phone, his brow furrowed. He tapped the screen. I watched as the blood drained from his face, leaving his skin a pasty, sickly gray. His hand started to shake. Frank, what is it? My mom asked, her voice laced with concern. He didn't answer. He just stared at the screen, his mouth opening and closing silently, like a fish gasping for air. Finally, he looked up at me, his eyes wide with a dawning horror. The inheritance account, he whispered, his voice cracking. Grandma Eleanor's trust. There's been a withdrawal. A wire transfer. For the entire balance, he swallowed hard. $28,452. My mom gasped, her hand flying to her chest. What? That's impossible. We're the trustees. No one can touch that without our signature. I leaned back against the counter, a feeling of pure, unadulterated power coursing through me. I had imagined this moment 1,000 times, played it over and over in my head, but the reality was so much sweeter. Actually, I said, my voice as smooth as glass, the trust documents are very specific. The trustees you manage the account until the beneficiary's 21st birthday. At 12:01 a.m. this morning, full legal control reverted to me. I smiled. Happy birthday to me. You stole from us, my dad roared. Finally finding his voice, he shot up from his chair, the newspaper falling to the floor. That money was for the family. It was for a down payment on Kevin's car. It was for Kevin, I finished for him, my voice dripping with mock sympathy. Everything is always for Kevin. Funny, because Grandma Eleanor always told me she set that money aside for me, for my education, for my first apartment, for a future that you two never bothered to invest in. The sound of footsteps on the stairs stopped my father's next tirade. Kevin appeared, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. He was wearing low-slung basketball shorts and a t-shirt from the university he already had a full athletic scholarship to. He was the picture of effortless success. What is all the yelling about? He grumbled, heading for the fridge. And what's this about my car? My mom rushed to his side as if to shield him from me. It's nothing, sweetie. Your sister is just being difficult this morning. Difficult? I laughed. A real, genuine laugh this time. It felt strange in my own throat. No, I'm being efficient. I just secured the funding for a project I've been working on. Kevin pulled out a carton of orange juice and chugged it straight from the container, something I would have been screamed at for. He looked at me over the top of the carton, his expression one of mild annoyance. What project? Did you finally join one of your weird online book clubs? Something like that, I said. My dad pointed a trembling finger at me. You give that money back, Sarah. You give it back right now, or I swear I will call the police. Go ahead, I challenged, my heart hammering but my voice steady. Call them. I've already spoken with a lawyer. Aunt Carol helped me find one. Every single cent was legally transferred from an account in my name to another account solely in my name. The only crime committed here has been 21 years of criminal neglect, and unfortunately for me, there are no laws against that. The mention of Aunt Carol made my mom flinch as if I'd slapped her. You went behind our backs. You spoke to her? She sends me a birthday card every year, I said simply. That's one more than you've managed in the last decade. My dad was sputtering, his face turning a blotchy red. Kevin, finally sensing that this was more than just a morning squabble, put the juice down. Wait, what money? What happened to the car money? He asked, the entitlement in his voice sharp and clear. I looked at my brother, the golden child who had effortlessly floated through life on a cloud of my parents' adoration, and I felt nothing. Not hatred, not even anger, just a vast, empty pity. They were never going to tell you, were they? I said to him. That the car money was from a trust my grandmother left for me. They were just going to take it, buy you a shiny toy, and hope I was too stupid or too scared to ever notice. I turned my gaze back to my parents, whose faces were a mixture of fury and shame. Well, I noticed. I'd been noticing everything. 8, before anyone could speak, before the next wave of threats or accusations could begin, a loud, insistent chiming echoed through the house. The doorbell. Once, twice, 3 times. Everyone froze. My dad's eyes darted towards the door, a new kind of panic setting in. Who is that? Are you expecting someone? I pushed myself off the counter and started walking towards the front hall. A slow, deliberate pace. My heart was thumping a triumphant rhythm against my ribs. This was it, the point of no return. Sarah, don't you open that door, my mom shrieked, her voice thin and reedy. Who is out there? I reached the door and paused, my hand hovering over the cold brass knob. I looked back over my shoulder at the 3 of them, a tableau of gilded ruin. My father, red-faced and impotent. My mother, pale and horrified. And my brother, the Sun King himself, looking utterly, completely lost as his kingdom began to crumble. I gave them one last brilliant smile. That, I said, turning the knob, would be the moving company. I pulled the door open, revealing 2 men in matching blue jumpsuits with swift and secure movers stitched over their breast pockets. The larger of the 2, a man with a friendly, weathered face, held a tablet. Sarah? He asked, his voice a low rumble. That's me, I confirmed, stepping aside to let them in. Morning. We've got you down for a full pack and move. The destination address is confirmed, and the first month's storage unit fee is paid up. We're ready to get started whenever you are. He looked past me at my stunned family, still frozen in the archway to the living room. Is it all right if we start upstairs? The client specified the second door on the left. My mother found her voice first, a high-pitched squeak of disbelief. Moving? What do you mean, moving? You can't be serious. Sarah, what is this? I ignored her, turning my full attention to the movers. Yes, that's my room. Please start there. Be careful with the boxes marked fragile. They're mostly books. Everything else is fair game. I want the room completely cleared out. The furniture, the clothes, everything. You got it, the man said with a professional nod. He and his partner made their way towards the staircase, their heavy work boots thudding against the hardwood floors. The sound was like a drumbeat, signaling the start of a new era. My dad finally snapped out of his trance. Hold on. You can't just come in here and take our things, he bellowed, stepping in front of the movers, blocking their path. The lead mover stopped, his friendly expression tightening slightly. He looked from my dad to me. Sir, my work order is signed and paid for by Miss Sarah here. She's over 18, and we're only taking items from the room she specified. That room is in my house, my dad insisted, jabbing a finger into his own chest. The furniture in that room was bought with my money. This was the part I had practiced. The part the lawyer Aunt Carol had found for me had walked me through a dozen times. Actually, it wasn't, I said, my voice cutting through the tension. I pulled a folded piece of paper from the back pocket of my leggings. This is a notarized document I had you sign last year. Do you remember? I unfolded it. You said you were too busy to read it. It was during the playoffs for Kevin's team, and you were trying to get the grill started for a barbecue. You told me to just handle it. I held up the paper for him to see. His own flowing, arrogant signature was scrawled at the bottom. It's a transfer of ownership. For my 17th birthday, instead of a gift, I asked for you to sign over the ownership of the furniture in my bedroom. The bed, the desk, the dresser. I told you it was for a school project on asset management. You laughed and signed it without a second thought. Legally, Dad, everything in that room is mine." His face went from red to a startling shade of purple. He was speechless. He looked at the paper, then back at me, his mouth agape. The memory of his own dismissiveness was hitting him full in the face. The movers, seeing their path was now metaphorically and legally clear, politely sidestepped my father and continued up the stairs. The sounds of a door opening and furniture being shifted began to drift down. Kevin, who had been watching this all unfold with wide, uncomprehending eyes, finally spoke up. "You're leaving? Like for real? Where are you going to go?" The question wasn't laced with concern. It was pure, self-centered curiosity, as if he were watching a bizarre nature documentary. "That's not your concern," I said coolly. "But don't worry, you'll have a lot more space now. Maybe you can turn my old room into a trophy room. You're running out of space in the den, after all." The sarcasm was lost on him. His eyes actually lit up for a second before my mother's wail brought him back to reality. "My baby girl is leaving," she cried, finally resorting to tears. It was a spectacular performance. She sank onto the bottom step of the staircase, burying her face in her hands. "After everything we've done for you, we gave you a roof over your head, food to eat, clothes to wear, and this is how you repay us, by tearing our family apart on your birthday?" She said the word birthday as if it were a foreign object in her mouth, something she was tasting for the first time. "You gave me the bare minimum required by law, Mom," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. I was a spectator now, watching a play I had written and directed. "You gave me leftovers. Leftover time, leftover attention, leftover love. You gave Kevin your whole hearts, and you gave me the scraps. Well, I'm done living on scraps." The sounds from upstairs were getting louder. A heavy thump, the squeak of drawers being pulled out. Each sound was a nail in the coffin of my old life. "This is her fault." "Ike," my mum suddenly shrieked, her head snapping up, her tear-streaked face contorted with rage. She was pointing at me, but her eyes were locked on my dad. "Your grandmother's sister, Carol, she put you up to this, didn't she? That bitter, jealous woman has been poisoning you against us." "Aunt Carol sent me a birthday card every year," I repeated slowly, as if speaking to a child. "She called to ask about my grades. She remembered the name of my best friend. That's not poison, Mom. That's called paying attention." My dad, recovering from the shock of the notarized document, found a new line of attack. "Fine, go. Take your stupid furniture. But you'll be back. The second that money runs out, you'll come crawling back here with your tail between your legs. The real world is hard, Sarah. You have no idea." It was the perfect opening. Phase 2 had been initiated, but Phase 3 was the real masterpiece. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A new message on the group chat. "We are live." I smiled, a slow, triumphant curve of my lips. "Oh, I don't think the money will be running out anytime soon. In fact, I'm expecting a significant return on my investment." I turned my phone screen towards them. It was open to a web page, a news article, freshly published not 5 minutes ago on the local city blog, the one everyone in our gossipy suburb read religiously. The headline was splashed across the top in a bold, damning font. "Local high school football stars, miracle, SAT score. Under investigation after anonymous tip exposes cheating scandal." My dad squinted at the screen, his face paling with every word he read. My mom's crying stopped abruptly. Kevin, standing by the fridge, let out a choked sound. The article was beautifully written. I had to give my friend, the editor of our school paper, and a key member of the project, full credit. It detailed an anonymous but highly credible tip received by the Educational Testing Board. A tip that suggested Kevin's near-perfect S80 score, the one that secured his non-athletic academic scholarships, the ones that were his backup plan, was not earned by him, but by a paid proxy who took the test in his place. The article didn't name names, of course. It just mentioned an unnamed star quarterback from our specific high school. But everyone would know. Everyone would know instantly. "You," Kevin whispered, his face ashen. He was looking at me, his golden boy confidence completely shattered. "You did this." I didn't answer him. I just watched the fallout. My mother was now staring at my father, a new horrifying suspicion dawning in her eyes. "Frank," she said, her voice trembling, "the SATs. You told me you just paid for an expensive tutor. You told me that's where the money from our savings went. Frank, what did you do?" My dad couldn't meet her gaze. He was looking at me, his expression a toxic cocktail of pure hatred and raw fear. He knew. He knew I had him. He had paid for the proxy, siphoning money from their joint account and thinking no one would ever find out. But I had found the encrypted emails. I had found everything. The doorbell rang again, another sharp, insistent chime, cutting through the suffocating tension. This time, no one moved. We all just stared at the door, a new, collective sense of dread hanging over us. I was the only one who knew who was standing on the other side. They were right on schedule. With a final parting glance at the wreckage of my family, I walked to the door and opened it. Standing on the porch were two people. The first was my Aunt Carol, her face etched with a fierce, protective love. The second was a woman in a sharp business suit, holding a briefcase. She smiled at me, a polite but firm expression. "Sarah," the woman said, "I'm Eleanor Vance, the reporter from the City Sentinel. I believe you have a story to tell me, and some evidence to share." Aunt Carol swept past the reporter and wrapped me in a fierce hug. She smelled of peppermint and justice. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," she whispered in my ear, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so proud of you." For a second I let myself lean into her, a wave of relief so powerful it almost buckled my knees. This was real. She was real. I wasn't alone. Then I straightened up, my spine turning back to steel. I met the reporter's sharp, intelligent gaze. "Miss Vance, thank you for coming. Please, come in. I believe my parents and my brother are just inside. I'm sure they'd love to answer some of your questions." I stepped back, holding the door open wide. It was a declaration of war. I wasn't just leaving. I was burning the whole rotten structure to the ground on my way out. The reporter, Eleanor Vance, gave a small predatory smile and walked in, followed by Aunt Carol, who looked ready to physically shield me from any blowback. The scene in the living room was one of complete paralysis. My father looked like a man who had just seen his own ghost. My mother was staring at him, the betrayal on her face so profound it was almost grotesque. And Kevin looked like a scared little boy. The star quarterback, the golden child, had vanished, replaced by a terrified teenager who was finally facing a problem his parents couldn't buy or charm their way out of. "Frank? Sheila?" Aunt Carol's voice was cold and clipped, all traces of warmth gone. "It's been a while." My mother flinched, turning her glare from my father to her sister. You did this. You twisted her mind." "No, Sheila, you did this," Carol shot back. "You and Frank built this house of cards. Sarah just finally decided to stop holding her breath so it wouldn't collapse." Eleanor Vance cleared her throat, her professional demeanor cutting through the family drama. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, I'm Eleanor Vance with the City Sentinel. I'm following up on a story regarding allegations of academic fraud at Northwood High, specifically concerning the SAT scores of your son, Kevin Thompson. Would either of you care to comment on the information I've received?" She held up a small digital recorder. My dad's face was a mottled red and white. He opened his mouth, but only a strangled squeak came out. He looked at me, his eyes pleading for the first time in my life, pleading for me to stop this, to take it all back. I gave him nothing. I just stood there, a silent observer to the life he had built, now being dismantled piece by piece. It was Kevin who broke. "It wasn't my idea," he blurted out, his voice cracking. He pointed a trembling finger at my dad. "He did it. He said everyone does it, that it was the only way to guarantee the academic scholarships if my football scholarship fell through. I didn't even want to." The betrayal flashed across my dad's face, so swift and total it was almost comical. The son he had worshipped, the one for whom he had sacrificed everything including his other child, was throwing him under the bus without a second thought to save himself. The golden child was, at his core, just as selfish as his creators. "You ungrateful little brat," my dad roared, turning on Kevin, "after everything I've done for you." "Everything you've done," my mom shrieked, finding her voice again. "You lied to me, Frank. You took our savings. You committed a crime. For him." The room devolved into chaos, a symphony of screaming, accusations, and denials. My dad yelling at Kevin, Kevin yelling back, my mom sobbing and screaming at both of them. It was ugly, it was raw, and it was everything they deserved. Eleanor Vance stood calmly in the middle of it all, her recorder silently capturing every damning word. The movers upstairs continued their work, the thuds and scrapes a steady, indifferent percussion to the implosion of the Thompson family. I watched for another minute, feeling a strange, hollow detachment. These were the people whose love I had craved for 2 decades. I had twisted myself into knots trying to be worthy of their attention. And for what? To see them tear each other apart the moment their perfect, curated world was threatened. The love wasn't real. It was transactional. Kevin was a good investment, and I was a bad one. It was that simple. Aunt Carol put a gentle hand on my arm. "Let's go, Sarah. There's nothing left for you here." She was right. I turned and walked out of the house, not looking back. I didn't need to. The sounds of their self-destruction followed me out into the cool October air. The moving truck was parked at the curb, its back ramp down. The two movers were carrying my dresser down the driveway. My whole life, packed into cardboard boxes. It looked so small. Aunt Carol led me to her car, a sensible Subaru parked across the street. "Your apartment is ready," she said, her voice soft now. "I've been getting it set up for the last month. It's small, but it's all yours, and the lawyer is filing the official emancipation paperwork this afternoon. With the trust fund, you're financially independent. You're free, Sarah." Free. The word settled over me, heavy and light at the same time. I got into the passenger seat, the worn cloth a welcome comfort. From here, I had a perfect view of the front of the house. My house. My former house. Just then, another car pulled up in front of the house, parking haphazardly behind the moving truck. It was a sleek black sedan. A man in a dark suit got out, followed by a woman. They looked official. Serious. "Who's that?" I asked, my heart giving a little thump. Aunt Carol followed my gaze, and a grim smile touched her lips. "That would be Phase 4. The reporter was just the appetizer. Those are investigators from the Educational Testing Service's Office of Testing Integrity." The anonymous tip wasn't just sent to the local news blog. My jaw dropped. I knew about the reporter, of course, but this was another level. We watched as the two investigators walked purposefully up the driveway. Eleanor Vance must have seen them arrive because she emerged from the house, her expression positively gleeful. She said a few words to them, pointing back inside, and they nodded before disappearing into the house I had just escaped. "They'll be invalidated," Aunt Carol said, almost to herself. "All of his scores. The scholarships will be revoked. The university offers too. They have a zero-tolerance policy for this kind of fraud." It was done. Kevin's future, the one my parents had so carefully, so criminally constructed, was gone. Wiped out in a single morning. I should have felt triumphant. I should have felt a rush of vindication. But all I felt was a profound, aching emptiness. I had won. I had burned it all down. Now what? As if on cue, my phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. My hands trembled as I opened it. The message was short, but it made the air leave my lungs in a sudden, sharp gasp. Aunt Carol looked over, her expression immediately concerned. "Sarah? What is it? Who's that from?" I couldn't speak. I could only stare at the words on the screen, the entire world shifting under my feet once again. This wasn't part of the plan. This was a variable I had never ever considered. The message read, "I know what you did, but you don't know the whole story. Your grandmother didn't just leave you the money. She left you the house too. It's in my name, and I'm coming home." Beneath the text was a signature that made my blood run cold. It was a name I hadn't heard spoken in our house in 15 years. The name of my father's estranged older brother, the family's greatest shame, the one they told me had disappeared and died years ago. It was signed, Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben. The name was a ghost story, a whispered cautionary tale from my childhood. He was the black sheep, the one who walked away. My father's official story was that Ben was a drifter, an unreliable dreamer who couldn't handle responsibility and had simply vanished, probably dead in a ditch somewhere. To hear he was alive was a shock. To hear he held the deed to my childhood home was like being hit by a freight train. "Sarah, who is Uncle Ben?" Aunt Carol's voice was sharp with urgency, pulling me from my daze. She had seen the shock on my face. "My dad's brother," I managed to choke out. "They told me he was dead." I showed her the phone. She read the message, her brow furrowing in disbelief. "Frank's brother? Ben Thompson? But that's impossible. Frank told everyone Ben signed over his share of the house when he left town years ago." She looked from the phone to the house, where the investigators were still inside. A new, complex layer of understanding dawned on her face. "Oh, that lying son of a... Frank never owned this house outright, did he? He was just living here, paying the property taxes. Pretending." The pieces started to click into place in my own mind. The reason my parents never did any major renovations. The way my dad would get furious if I so much as put a nail in the wall to hang a poster. He wasn't protecting his investment. He was squatting in his brother's. And Grandma Eleanor, my father's own mother, had seen it all. She had seen my father's character, his favoritism, his lies. So she had left her money to me, and her house to her other, supposedly lost, son. It was a posthumous checkmate of staggering proportions. "What do I do?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. My meticulously crafted plan, my grand detonation, suddenly felt like a child's firecracker in the face of this bombshell. I had planned my escape, but I'd never considered who might be coming back. "First, you breathe," Aunt Carol said, her hand finding mine and squeezing it tight. "Second, we go back to your new apartment, we get you settled, and we call the lawyer. This changes things, but it doesn't change the most important thing. You are out. You are safe. The rest is just noise." I nodded, though my mind was reeling. Noise. The screaming coming from the house was noise. The impending scandal was noise. But a dead uncle coming back to life to claim the very ground my family stood on. That felt like a sonic boom. As Aunt Carol started the car, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from the group chat. The project. It was from Maya, my best friend and the mastermind behind the media assault. "Maya. OMG. City Sentinel just posted the story with names. It's official. Your dad and Kevin are named. My mom's phone is already blowing up with texts from other parents. It's spreading like wildfire." I looked at the house one last time as we pulled away from the curb. The movers were loading the last of my things, my desk, onto the truck. The black sedan of the ETS investigators was still parked out front. It was the last image I had of my old life. A crime scene, cordoned off by my own righteous fury. The drive to my new apartment was a blur. Aunt Carol talked, trying to fill the silence with practical details about utilities and renter's insurance, but I could barely process the words. My mind was stuck on two things: the image of my family's implosion and the name on my phone screen. Uncle Ben. My apartment was on the third floor of a small, clean brick building on the other side of town. It was small, as Carol had said, but it was perfect. A small living room, a tiny kitchen, a bedroom, and a bathroom. Carol had already furnished it with a mix of new things from IKEA and some of her own spare furniture. There was a brand new set of towels in the bathroom, and a pot of yellow chrysanthemums on the windowsill. It was the first space in my life that was truly, unconditionally mine. The movers arrived shortly after we did. As they brought my familiar things into this new, unfamiliar space, the reality of it started to sink in. My books on the new shelves, my clothes in the new closet, my desk under the window that looked out over a quiet, tree-lined street instead of my parents' manicured lawn. This was my life now. After the movers left and Carol paid them, she ordered pizza. We sat on the floor of my new living room, the boxes stacked around us like a fortress. "So," she said, taking a bite of pepperoni pizza, "we call the lawyer. We tell him about your uncle. We see what he advises." "What if he's lying?" I asked. "What if it's some kind of trick from my dad?" "I don't think so," Carol said, shaking her head. "This has the ring of truth. The kind of long-buried, messy truth your father specializes in hiding. Your grandmother Eleanor was a smart woman. She knew who her sons were." Before I could reply, my phone rang. It was a blocked number. My heart hammered against my ribs. I looked at Carol, my eyes wide. She gave me a firm nod. I answered, putting it on speaker. "Hello," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Sarah?" The voice on the other end was male, low and raspy, with a warmth that felt strangely familiar, like a half-remembered song. "This is your Uncle Ben. Did you get my text?" "Yes," I stammered. "I don't understand. They told me you were dead." A dry, mirthless chuckle came through the phone. "Yeah, that sounds like Frank. It was easier than telling the truth, I suppose. Listen, kid, I'm not calling to scare you. I saw the news story. The online one. It's all over the place. I figured things were finally coming to a head, and it was time for me to stop watching from the sidelines. I'm in town. I'm at a hotel downtown." My mind was spinning. He'd been watching. For how long? "The house," I began, not even knowing what to ask. "Is mine," he finished gently. "And your grandmother's trust stated explicitly that if Frank was ever removed or forced to leave for any reason, I was to assume occupancy. Seems like that day has come. I have all the paperwork, Sarah. The original deed, the trust documents. Frank has a copy, locked in his safe. He knows. He's known for 25 years. 25 years. He had lived in that house, raising his perfect son, all while knowing that his estranged brother held the power to evict him at any moment. The audacity of it was breathtaking. What are you going to do?" I asked, dread and a strange sort of hope warring in my stomach. "I'm going to go home," he said simply. "Tomorrow morning. I'm going to walk up to that front door with the sheriff and a locksmith, and I'm going to reclaim what's mine. But that's not why I'm calling you, Sarah. I'm calling about what happens next, about what they're going to do to you." A cold chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean?" "Frank doesn't lose." Ben's voice grew grim. "He'll burn the world down before he admits defeat. He's going to come after you, not just for the money, but for this, for the humiliation. He'll try to get you declared mentally incompetent. He'll say your Aunt Carol and I manipulated you. He will try to ruin you, Sarah. He has to, because you've already ruined him." The pizza suddenly felt like a rock in my stomach. I had thought I was finished, that I had won, but this was just the beginning. I hadn't just started a fire, I had kicked a hornet's nest, and the hornets were my own family. "What should I do?" I whispered. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Uncle Ben's voice came back, lower and more serious than before. "You need to get out of town, just for a few days. Let me and Carol handle the fallout here. The lawyer agrees. Go somewhere they can't find you. Let the dust settle." "Go where?" My world had just shrunk to this tiny apartment. The idea of going anywhere else felt impossible. "I have a place," he said. "A cabin. It's remote. Safe. No one knows about it but me. I'm sending you the address. But there's something else, Sarah. Something in the house. Your grandmother left something else for you. It's not money. It's not property. It's proof. Frank knows it's there, but he's never been able to find it. He will tear that house apart looking for it before I kick him out. You need to get it first." My heart was pounding. "Proof? Proof of what? What is it?" "It's in your old room," he said, his voice dropping to an urgent whisper. "He'll never think to look there now that you've cleared it out. You think forgetting your birthday was the worst thing they did to you. You have no idea, Sarah. You have no idea what they really took from you." "What they really took from me," I repeated, the words feeling alien and heavy on my tongue. "What are you talking about? What could be worse than all of this?" My gesture encompassed the boxes, the new apartment, the ruins of the life I'd just fled. There was a heavy sigh on the other end of the line, a sound freighted with years of unspoken history. "It's not my story to tell, Sarah. It's yours. Your grandmother made sure of that. She left a breadcrumb trail for you, things she couldn't say out loud while Frank was in control. The proof is the final piece. You have to get it before he does." A cold dread, far deeper than anything I had felt before, began to seep into my bones. This wasn't just about favoritism or neglect anymore. It was about a secret. A secret so big my grandmother had to hide clues to it. A secret my father would tear the house apart to find. "Where is it?" I asked, my voice tight. "My room is empty. The movers took everything." "It's not in your things," Ben explained, his voice urgent. "It's in the room itself. Do you remember the old growth chart? The one your grandfather penciled on the doorframe when you and Kevin were kids." The image flashed in my mind instantly. A series of small, faint pencil marks on the white trim of my bedroom doorway, each one dated, charting my height from the time I was a toddler. The marks stopped abruptly around my 8th birthday. After that, all the new marks, higher up the frame, had Kevin's name next to them. It was just one more small, casual cruelty I had learned to live with. "Yes, I remember it," I said. "Your grandfather was a carpenter," Ben said. "He loved secret compartments. Behind the highest of your marks, the last one with your name on it, there's a small hollow space. He made it for you to hide your treasures," he said. "Frank never knew. You need to pry that piece of the doorframe off. Inside you'll find a small sealed envelope. Get it and go. Don't look at it until you're safe at the cabin." My mind raced. Going back there, the thought was terrifying. The house was a war zone now. My father, my mother, Kevin, they would be there. They would be waiting. "How am I supposed to get in?" I whispered. "They'll have changed the locks. They'll be watching." "They won't have had time to change the locks yet," Aunt Carol interjected, her voice firm. She had been listening intently, her face a mask of concentration. "And they'll be too busy dealing with the investigators and fielding calls from every gossip in town to be watching the back door. We can do this, but we have to go now." Uncle Ben's voice came back through the speaker. "She's right. Go now. Get in, get the envelope, and get out. I've transferred some cash to Carol's account for your travel expenses. The address for the cabin is on its way to your phone. Don't call me again until you're there. It's better if there's no record. Be careful, Sarah." The line went dead. A second later, a text with a set of coordinates and a simple message. "The key is under the 3rd rock to the left of the porch," arrived on my phone. Aunt Carol was already on her feet, grabbing her purse and car keys. "All right. New plan. I'll drive you. We'll park a street over. I'll keep watch. You go in the back, through the kitchen. You know the layout. Be quick. 5 minutes in and out. Can you do this?" I looked at her, then around at my new, safe little apartment. The idea of leaving it, of willingly walking back into that house, felt like a betrayal of the freedom I had just won. But Ben's words echoed in my head. "You have no idea what they really took from you." I had to know. I had come this far. I couldn't stop now. "Yes," I said, my own voice surprising me with its strength. "I can do this." The drive back to my old neighborhood was surreal. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the perfectly manicured lawns. Everything looked the same, but I knew it was all different. A cancer had been exposed in the heart of this idyllic suburb, and I was the one who had wielded the scalpel. Carol parked on a side street, just as she'd said. The house was visible through a gap in the trees. The moving truck and the investigator's car were gone. My dad's SUV and my mom's minivan were in the driveway. The house looked quiet, almost peaceful, but I knew it was a deceptive calm. "My old key is still on my keychain," I said, pulling it from my pocket. "The back door lock is flimsy. It was always sticking." "Good. Now, you've got your phone?" Carol asked, her eyes scanning the street. I nodded. "If anything feels wrong, you call me, and you get out. Don't be a hero. The envelope isn't worth getting hurt over. Understand?" "I understand." I got out of the car, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. I pulled my hoodie up over my head and slipped through the neighbor's backyard, my feet silent on the soft grass. The air was cold, and I could smell someone's fireplace burning. It was all so painfully normal. I reached the back of my house. The kitchen window was dark. I crept up to the back door, my key trembling in my hand. I slid it into the lock. It resisted for a moment, just like it always did, and then with a familiar grating click, the deadbolt slid back. I held my breath, listening. Silence. Slowly I pushed the door open and slipped inside. The kitchen was dark and smelled of stale coffee and something acrid, like fear. I could hear the low murmur of voices coming from the living room. My father's voice, low and furious. My mother's, high and weeping. I didn't dare try to make out the words. I kicked off my shoes and moved silently across the tiled floor, my body moving on pure, adrenaline-fueled instinct. I reached the bottom of the back staircase, the one that led up from the kitchen, the one we rarely used. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my socked feet making no sound on the carpeted treads. I reached the second-floor landing and paused, my ears straining. The voices from downstairs were muffled now. I crept down the hallway to my old room. The door was ajar. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was a hollow shell, empty. The bare walls, the vacant floor, the empty closet. It was more jarring than I could have imagined. Without my things, it wasn't my room at all. It was just a box where I had spent 21 years being invisible. I went straight to the doorframe. There they were, the faint pencil marks. I ran my fingers over them. Sarah, age 5. Sarah, age 6. Sarah, age 7. And then the last one. Sarah, age 8. My finger stopped there. Above it, the markings for Kevin began their confident ascent up the wood. I didn't have a tool to pry it open, so I used my fingernails, digging into the tiny gap where the trim met the wall. The paint cracked. A small piece of wood splintered. I dug harder, my fingers raw, until I could get a purchase. With a groan of protesting wood, a small section of the doorframe, about 6 inches long, popped loose. My breath caught in my throat. There, nestled in a small, carved-out hollow, was a small, yellowed envelope. It was sealed with a wax stamp bearing the initial E for Eleanor. My name, Sarah, was written on the front in my grandmother's spidery, elegant handwriting. I snatched it, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I shoved it deep into the front pocket of my hoodie and quickly pushed the piece of trim back into place. It wasn't perfect, but in the dim light it would pass a casual glance. I had it. Now I just had to get out. I crept back into the hallway. I could still hear the arguing downstairs. I started back towards the kitchen staircase, my escape route. But then I heard something else, a different sound. The sound of Kevin's bedroom door opening just down the hall. I froze, flattening myself against the wall in the shadows. He didn't come out. Instead, I heard his voice, low and conspiratorial, as if he were on the phone. "No, I know, but you have to get it back for me," he was whispering frantically. "Dad will kill me. It has the list of everyone who was involved, all the other players. If the investigators find it, it's not just me who goes down. The whole team goes down." My blood ran cold. He was talking about more evidence, a list. But where was it? Then I heard him say the words that made my entire world tilt on its axis. "I know it's safe for now. No one would ever look there." I put it in the lining of Sarah's old winter coat, the one she left in the back of her closet. But my closet was empty. The movers had taken everything. My winter coat, along with all my other clothes, was packed in a cardboard box, sitting in the middle of my brand new living room floor. The box. It was sitting on my floor, labeled "Clothes Winter," in my own neat handwriting. Kevin's entire conspiracy, the list that could exonerate him by implicating half the football team, was in my possession. He had used me, my invisibility, one last time. He'd stashed his evidence with my things, confident no one would ever bother to look through the belongings of the forgotten daughter. The irony was so bitter it tasted like acid. I had to warn Aunt Carol. I had to tell her that the fuse I had lit was attached to a much larger bomb than I'd ever imagined, and a piece of it was sitting in my apartment. My hand instinctively went to my phone, but I stopped. If I called and Kevin heard, he would know I was here. He would know I had the coat. He would know I had heard everything. Panic warred with a cold, calculating fury. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a coward, willing to drag down his entire team, his so-called friends, to save himself. And my father had enabled it, fostered this festering rot of entitlement and deceit. I backed away from Kevin's door, my movements as silent and fluid as a shadow. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to get back to the car, to safety. But my grandmother's envelope was a heavy, solid weight in my pocket, a reminder that the truth wasn't just about Kevin's cheating. There was more, and Kevin's desperate confession had just given me an idea, a terrible, brilliant idea. I didn't go back down the kitchen stairs. Instead, I continued down the hall, away from both Kevin's room and the main staircase. I crept into my parents' master bedroom. The air was thick with my mother's cloying perfume and the scent of my father's stale entitlement. The room was immaculate, as always, a perfect facade. I knew what I was looking for. My father, a man of profound arrogance and little imagination, kept his secrets in the most cliché of places. I went to his closet, a vast walk-in affair filled with suites and polo shirts in varying shades of beige. In the back, behind a row of golf shoes, was a small, black safe. I had discovered the combination years ago, by accident. I'd seen him punch it in once, distractedly, while on the phone. The date was Kevin's first Pee Wee League touchdown, 0912. September 12th. I had never had a reason to use it before. Now it felt like fate. My fingers trembled as I turned the dial. Right to 0, left past 0 to 9, right to 1, left to 2. A soft click echoed in the silent closet. I pulled the heavy door open. Inside were the usual things, some jewelry of my mother's, a stack of bonds, a spare set of car keys, and a thick manila folder. I pulled it out. Inside was exactly what Uncle Ben had said I would find. A copy of my grandmother's trust and the deed to the house. It clearly stated that Benjamin Thompson was the sole owner, and that Frank Thompson's residency was conditional. My father had been living a lie for my entire life. But there was something else tucked in the back of the folder. A smaller envelope, with a single word written on it. College. My heart hammered. I opened it. Inside wasn't a document, but a stack of photographs. They were of me as a baby. Me with my grandmother. Me with Aunt Carol. But then, there was one that made me stop breathing. It was a picture of a young woman who looked startlingly like me, holding me as a newborn in a hospital bed. She was smiling, but her eyes were sad. It wasn't my mother. Tucked behind the photo was a letter. I unfolded it, my hands shaking. The letterhead was from a prestigious out-of-state university, the one I had dreamed of attending, the one my parents had told me we couldn't possibly afford. It was an acceptance letter. Not just an acceptance letter, but a notification of a full-ride academic scholarship. It was dated 3 years ago, the spring of my senior year of high school. They had hidden it. They had received my acceptance, my full scholarship, my ticket out, my dream, and they had buried it in a safe. They had told me I was rejected, that my grades weren't good enough. They had let me enroll in the local community college instead, telling me it was all we could afford. They had clipped my wings, trapped me here, all so their precious son, Kevin, could have his moment, his Mustang, his unimpeded path to glory. A sound, a guttural sob of pure rage and grief, escaped my lips before I could stifle it. I slapped my hand over my mouth, my eyes wide with terror. Had anyone heard? I stood frozen in the closet, listening. The arguing downstairs had stopped. The silence that followed was somehow more terrifying. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Coming up the main staircase. Heavy, angry footsteps. My father's. I had seconds. I couldn't leave the evidence, but I couldn't take the whole folder. I grabbed the acceptance letter and the photo of the strange woman. I shoved them into my hoodie pocket alongside my grandmother's envelope. I quickly put the deed and trust back in the folder, closed the safe, and spun the dial. I shut the closet door and dove under my parents' king-sized bed, just as their bedroom door swung open. I'm telling you, Sheila, she was here. I heard something. It was my dad's voice, tight with paranoia. I lay flat on the dusty carpet, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. I could see his expensive leather shoes pacing back and forth. "You're hearing things, Frank," my mother's exhausted voice replied from the doorway. "You're just on edge because of everything." "No, the back door was unlatched. I just checked. She was here, I know it. What if she took something? What if she found—" He trailed off, but I knew what he meant. He was afraid I'd found the safe. He crossed the room and wrenched open his closet door. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't think to check the contents. He was silent for a long moment. It was the longest moment of my life. "It's still here," he finally said, a wave of relief in his voice. He closed the closet. "But she was here. I can feel it." He walked back towards the door. "We need to call the locksmith. Now. And we're calling the police, Sheila. I don't care what that lawyer said. She broke in. We can report the money as stolen. Say she coerced us." His voice faded as they moved back out into the hallway, their footsteps receding down the stairs. They were going to call the police. They were going to spin a new web of lies, paint me as a thief, a delinquent. The acceptance letter felt like a hot coal in my pocket. It wasn't just about money or a car anymore. They had stolen my future. I waited until I heard their voices again, faint from the first floor, before I scrambled out from under the bed. My mind was a maelstrom of shock and white-hot fury. I had what I came for, and so much more. But Kevin's confession had given me an opportunity, a way to not just escape, but to control the narrative, a way to ensure that their lies would be useless. I slipped out of their room and back to the hollowed-out shell of my own. I looked at the broken piece of doorframe and then at the bare walls. It was a blank canvas. With trembling hands, I pulled out my phone. I didn't call Aunt Carol. Instead, I sent a single text. To Kevin. "I know about the coat. I know about the list. I know everything." I waited a beat, then sent another message. This one to my father. I attached a photo I'd just snapped of the university acceptance letter. My text to him was simple, a lit match tossed onto a puddle of gasoline. "I know what you did, and now everyone else is about to find out too. Unless you do exactly what I say." I hit send and watched the 2 check marks turn blue almost instantly on both messages. I could hear a sudden, sharp intake of breath from downstairs, followed by a furious shout of my name. Then, from down the hall, I heard a crash, as if Kevin had dropped his phone or knocked something over in shock. The hornet's nest was officially kicked, and I was standing right in the middle of it. The front door slammed open downstairs. It wasn't the police. It was someone else. A man's voice, low and unfamiliar, but carrying an unmistakable authority, boomed through the house. "Frank? Sheila? Get down here. We need to talk about my house." Uncle Ben had arrived, and he hadn't come alone. The house, which moments before had been a tinderbox of my family's private panic, erupted. I heard my father roar in a mixture of fury and disbelief, my mother letting out a thin, terrified wail. From down the hall, Kevin's door was thrown open, and he thundered down the main staircase, not out of bravery, but out of a desperate need to be near the parents who had always shielded him. I, on the other hand, remained frozen at the top of the back staircase, a ghost in my own home, holding all the puppet strings. I crept to the edge of the landing, peering down into the main foyer. There he was. Uncle Ben. He was older than I'd imagined from the single faded photo I'd ever seen, his hair streaked with gray, but he stood with a solid, grounded presence my father had always lacked. He wasn't alone. Standing beside him were 2 uniformed sheriff's deputies. My father, his face a terrifying mask of purple rage, stood at the bottom of the stairs, with my mother clutching his arm and Kevin hovering behind him like a frightened princeling. "You!" my father spat at Ben. "You have no right to be here. This is my house." "Actually, Frank, it's not," Ben said, his voice calm and steady, which only seemed to enrage my father more. He held up a sheaf of papers. "This is the deed, the original, and this is a court order, effective immediately, enforcing the terms of our mother's trust. You are trespassing." He turned to the deputies. "I'd like these people removed from my property." "You can't do this," my mother shrieked. "We live here. Our things are here. And you'll have 24 hours to remove your personal effects under the supervision of the Sheriff's Department, Ben said, his voice devoid of sympathy. After that, anything left behind will be considered abandoned. It was then that my father's eyes, wild and searching, flickered up and met mine. He saw me standing in the shadows at the top of the stairs. His rage found a new target. Her! It was her, he screamed, pointing a trembling finger. She's the one you should be arresting. She broke in. She's been texting me, threatening me. One of the deputies turned his gaze towards me. My heart hammered, but I held my ground. This was the moment of truth. I pulled out my phone. He's right, I said, my voice carrying clearly down the stairwell. I did text him. I sent him this. I angled my phone so the deputy could see the picture of the scholarship letter. This is a full-ride scholarship to a university that I was awarded 3 years ago. It was sent to this address, and my parents hid it from me and told me I was rejected. I believe that constitutes mail fraud, not to mention a whole host of other things. I'm happy to give a full statement. The deputy's expression shifted from suspicion to professional interest. He looked from my phone to my father's now ashen face and back to me. Ma'am, why don't you come down here? As I started down the stairs, Kevin finally found his voice, a panicked squeal. And her, she stole my stuff. My winter coat. It has personal items in it. She's a thief. He was trying to create chaos to deflect, but he had just made his second fatal mistake of the day. Your coat, I said, stopping halfway down the stairs. You mean the one you hid your list of accomplices in? The other football players involved in the SAT cheating ring. The list you were just on the phone trying to get someone to retrieve for you. Because if that's the coat you're talking about, I wouldn't call the authorities about it if I were you. Kevin's mouth snapped shut. The color drained from his face. He looked at my father, who stared back, the final, horrifying realization dawning on him. He had no moves left. I had taken the board. Every lie they had built their lives on was now laid bare in the foyer, with sheriff's deputies as witnesses. I reached the bottom of the stairs and walked not to my parents, but to my uncle. I stopped in front of him, this stranger who was my family. I held out the small yellowed envelope. Grandma Eleanor left this for me. Ben looked at the envelope, then at me, and a sad knowing smile touched his lips. I know. She told me she was leaving you the truth. I tore open the seal. Inside was not a letter, but a legal document. A birth certificate. My birth certificate. I scanned it, my eyes searching for the lie I now knew must be there. And then I saw it. Under the section for mother, it didn't say Sheila Thompson. It listed a different name, Elizabeth Vance. And under father, it listed Benjamin Thompson. The world went silent. The angry shouts, the shuffling feet of the deputies. It all faded away. I looked up from the paper, at my uncle's face, my father's face. I saw the resemblance now, the shared line of his jaw, the shape of his eyes. Ben wasn't my uncle. He was my father. And Elizabeth Vance, the reporter, Eleanor Vance, who had so calmly recorded my family's downfall. My mind reeled. The woman who looked so much like me in the photograph, she was my mother. The reporter was my aunt. Frank couldn't have children, Ben said, his voice soft. Meant only for me. Sheila was desperate. My girlfriend at the time, Elizabeth, and I. We were young, stupid, and about to have a baby we couldn't support. Frank and Sheila made us an offer. They would raise you as their own, give you everything. We agreed on the condition that we could always be a part of your life. But once they had you, Frank cut us out completely. He created the story that I was a deadbeat who abandoned my family and disappeared. He paid my sister Eleanor to stay away, threatening to ruin her career if she ever tried to make contact. He stole you, Sarah. That's the secret he's been hiding. It all clicked into place. Aunt Carol's fierce protection, she wasn't my mother's sister. She was my grandmother's sister, my great-aunt, the only one who knew the whole truth and fought to stay in my life. The reporter's professional calm, masking a personal investment. And my parents, Frank and Sheila's hollow cruelty. I wasn't their disappointing daughter. I was the living symbol of their greatest lie, a constant reminder of their fraud. They hadn't neglected me. They had resented me. It's over, Frank, Ben said, turning to his brother. Frank stood there, a broken, pathetic man, all the bluster and rage gone, replaced by a vast, empty defeat. Sheila was sobbing uncontrollably, hiding her face. The deputies escorted them out, along with a pale and trembling Kevin. They were given their 24 hours, but we all knew there was nothing for them to come back to. Their reputation was destroyed. Their son's future was in ashes. Frank was facing multiple fraud investigations, and they had lost their home. In the sudden, profound silence of the foyer, I stood with my real father. the truth of my entire life rearranged around me. An hour later, Eleanor, my aunt, returned, her reporter's notebook put away. She looked at me, her eyes filled with 21 years of unshed tears, and hugged me. It felt like coming home. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of lawyers and revelations. The list from Kevin's coat was turned over to the authorities, and the cheating scandal became a statewide story. Frank and Sheila took what little they had and moved away, disappearing under the weight of their own disgrace. Kevin ended up facing a disciplinary board and losing all his scholarships, his golden future tarnished forever. I never spoke to them again. I didn't need to. My father, Ben, gave me the choice. I could have the house, or he could sell it and add the money to my trust fund. I told him to sell it. There were too many ghosts inside those walls. On my 22nd birthday, 1 year after my life was both destroyed and reborn, I was sitting in a cafe near the campus of the university I should have been attending all along. I had reapplied and been accepted again, this time with my real father, my aunt, and my great-aunt cheering me on. A package arrived for me. Inside was a small lopsided cake with a single, happy candle. The card read, "We will never forget. Happy birthday, our brilliant daughter. Love, Dad, Aunt Eleanor, and Great-Aunt Carol." For the first time in my life, the silence wasn't deafening. It was peaceful. They hadn't just stolen my past, they had stolen my future. But on my 21st birthday, I took it all back. I changed everything. And in the wreckage of their lies, I finally found my truth. I finally found my family. And for the first time, I was truly, completely, and gloriously free.